So next up on the chopping block here, Ubisoft wants you to be comfortable not owning your games. So with the pre-release of Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Ubisoft has chosen this week to rebrand its Ubisoft Plus subscription services and introduce a PC version of the quote classic tier at a lower price. And a big part of this, says the publisher's director of subscriptions, Philippe Tremblay, is getting players comfortable with not owning their games. It's hard to keep up with how often Ubisoft has rebranded its online portals for its games with Uplay, Ubisoft Game Launcher, Ubisoft Connect, Uplay Plus, Uplay Passport, Ubisoft Club, and now Ubisoft Plus Premium and Ubisoft Plus Classics. All names used over the last decade or so. It's also seemed faintly bewildering why there's a demand for any of them, given Ubisoft released only 5 non-mobile games last year. However, a demand there apparently is, says Tremblay in an interview with GI.biz. He claims the company's subscription service had its biggest ever month, October 2023, and that the service has had, quote, millions of subscribers and, quote, over 500 million hours played. Of course, a lot of this could be the result of Ubisoft's various moments of refusing to release games to Steam, forcing PC players to use its service, and likely opting for a month subscription rather than the full price of the game they were looking to buy. But still, clearly people are opting to use it. But it remains strange why enough people would want to subscribe, and at $17.99 a month, it's not cheap, to a single publisher's output. That's not a diss of Ubisoft games, although you might want to apply your own, but something that would be as true were it Activision Blizzard or EA. You can subscribe to Game Pass or PlayStation Plus and get a broad range of hundreds of games from dozens of publishers, and you can pay significantly more to only get the games made by one single publisher, and indeed a publisher with a very distinct style of game. TV networks and movie companies tried this, and those numbers are thinning out fast, with many already compromising by returning their shows to the larger streamers. What's more chilling about all this, however, is when Tremblay moves on to how Ubisoft wishes to see a, quote, consumer shift similar to that of the market for CDs and DVDs, where people have moved over to Spotify and Netflix instead of buying physical media to keep on their own shelves. Given that most people, while being part of the problem, also think of this as a problem, it's so weird to see it phrased as if some faulty thinking in the company's audience. One of the things we saw is that gamers are used to, a little bit like DVD, having and owning their games, but the consumer shift that needs to happen. They got comfortable not owning their CD collection or DVD collection. That's a transformation that's been a bit slower to happen in games. As gamers grows comfortable in that aspect, you don't lose your progress. If you resume your game at another time, your progress file is still there. It's not been deleted. You don't lose what you've built in the game or your engagement with the game. So it's about feeling comfortable with not owning your game. Tremblay goes on to say to GI.biz, but as people embrace that model, they will see that these games will exist, the service will continue, and you'll be able to access them when you feel like. But we know that isn't true. We know how often services don't continue, how many games are no longer available. One of my all-time favorite games was published by Ubisoft in 2003 called In Memoriam. And that's missing since January in the US. And that's certainly not on its classic range. I'm sure because the company long ago lost any rights to it. Luckily for me, I own a physical copy of it, but any number of other Ubisoft games from the early aughts I stick in its classic site have no results. There's no reason on earth to think the same won't be true of Ubisoft's current games in 20 years. There are still plans for Ubisoft to add streaming access to Activision Blizzard's games to Ubisoft Plus, as bizarre as that may seem given the publisher's recent acquisition by Microsoft. It'll also seem fairly redundant given all the games will come to a far more ubiquitous Game Pass, where they won't be behind the technical hurdle of streaming. And indeed, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is already available to play via the Epic Game Store if you pre-ordered it there. If for whatever reason you just adore Ubisoft's output, then yes, for $17.99 a month, you can play Skull and Bones, Avatar, Assassin's Creed Mirage, Anno 1800, and The Crew Motorfest right now, which is a lot cheaper than buying them all individually. But you won't own any of them, and you'll need to keep paying that $18 a month in perpetuity if you want to keep them right up until you can't anymore. So this is something that we've talked about quite a bit in the past about moving from like Game Pass basically being something that more or less is, if done right and if it's available on enough, consoles, available on enough platforms, that we'll definitely see a consumer shift from playing like physical media on to not worrying about owning those things, basically leasing those things and playing them whenever you want to, whenever you get ready to play them. But I think that this article right here shows that like developers look at this as not something that is beneficial for not only the company but also the consumers, but they look at this almost as a way of like, how do we screw the consumers out of as much money as we possibly can while we retain as much money as we possibly can? Like that's kind of the feeling the article gives, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, Dirt, we know that this shift is inevitably going to happen. We know that that's going to happen. Do you feel that the quality control that right now is shoddy for most games, but the quality control will go down significantly as they continue to try to pump more and more and more content on these game streaming services?
Yeah, and what's funny is this week there was leaks of the new Xbox. It's so funny you bring this up, like, because the new Xbox console will be, what you call it?
Game Pass only?
No disc.
No disc drive? Yeah.
No disc. And then Microsoft shuts down the division that manufactures the physical media and the division that puts it out.
Yeah.
So now they can still outsource any games that come out between now and then.
Yeah.
And have them made and put out, but they're gearing up. There's going to be a fucking Xbox console that you can get Game Pass on.
Yeah.
And there's all your games.
Yeah. Well,
it's coming.
And on the heels of that, the reason why, at least from my personal opinion, the reason why Microsoft is doing that is because big box stores, Walmart, Target, things like that, had to send pallets and pallets of Starfield games back.
Oh, yeah.
Pallets. I'm talking about tractor trailer truckloads worth of pallets.
Thousands.
Yes, of Starfield and other Xbox games. People aren't buying physical media any longer. Like that's just the reality of the situation.
They sold them a console where they don't have a disc drive.
Yeah.
You could buy one, but it costs more.
Yes.
The other one was cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
The same with the PlayStation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The problem with taking away physical media is we've started to see this with streaming services. They'll just take the shit off there. Gone.
Exactly.
It's gone.
Yes. It disappears into the void. And I think that that's why, like, there needs to be a precedent set, whether it be like a congressional thing, like maybe it makes it that far or not, but there needs to be a way, like preservation exists for a reason. All these old games that either didn't get released, were released in small quantities, people are finding the physical versions of these games. It could be on test carts. It could be on, whatever. It could be on just rigs that people had set up to try to develop the game on. But they figured out a way to get the ROM data, put them online, and you can play some of these unreleased or, unfinished games. And people are going in and refinish them, re-releasing them, things like that. That doesn't exist in 20 years when the Ubisoft servers shut down and these games are just lost to time. They're just gone forever.
Well, you can't pirate a digital down. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
No disc.
Yeah.
Like it's on Game Pass. You can't pirate that and put it on some site. That's what they're trying to do too. Get away from.
Yeah.
But then they should be in agreement where it's like, all right, look, We'll guarantee you this game will be on here for 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
That's your guarantee.
Yeah.
Because what happens? You play a game for a while, you want to go back and play it again. It's gone.
Yeah.
I played this
Exactly.
game for 400 hours. What the fuck?
Yeah. And that's where it gets into that weird territory. And I don't like the way that like Ubisoft specifically is kind of looking at the consumer base, because it's like, of course, it's naturally going to go that way. The natural order of the world is changing when it comes to media, when it comes to consuming media. You see that with comic books, you see that with books, you see that with movies, you see that with TV shows. Inevitably, video games are going to go the same way. But that should not take away from an enjoyable experience and just pushing just absolute shit out of a pipeline to try to bring more subscribers into it. We saw an overabundance of content on Netflix alone. And a lot of it wasn't
Disney
great.
Plus.
Yes, exactly. A lot of it wasn't great. Now they're having to go back to the draw. Well, why are we losing subscribers? Well, nobody wants to watch the content you're producing. When does Stranger Things season 4 come out?
Yeah.
Like, that's what we're waiting on. So let's fast track that. You know, like, to me, I think that like games as a service and all that kind of stuff, paying full price for a game, even though I wish things would go back to that, is probably never going to happen. It's going to be a games as a service thing. You're going to pay a subscription in some way, shape, or form. The owner, you know, Microsoft's going to get their nut off of the monthly subscription.
Oh, yeah.
So therefore the developers have to put something in the game to monetize the game to make money off of the game.
I like the cloud gaming.
Yeah.
To be able to just play any game.
Yeah.
Like now. And it run great.
Yeah.
What if you got bad internet though? What if you're in a hotel room?
Right. Yeah.
Using a hotspot.
Mm-hmm. And I think like on Game Pass, you can download the games that you're playing onto your system. And if they're single player games, you don't even have to worry about being connected. Like you'll have to connect to be able to.
If you pay for that tier.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I can download them on PlayStation when I'm paying for that service.
Yeah. So, Garbo, how are you feeling about this transition from physical, purchasable media to just a subscription type service where you get what you get?
I don't like it. Because what if I just want a physical copy of something that?
Yeah. And speaking of that,
I mean, I'm a fan of legitimately, I have a collection of like all the Final Fantasy games I've collected over my life, and yet, so like I would like a hard copy of the new Final Fantasy that's about to come out. So, like,
Well,
if they
they
stop
programmed
doing
us to
that
be
as
collectors. Now you want to take that away?
yeah, you're slowly pulling it away from.
I mean,
yeah,
exactly. And here's the thing too. We have a Plex server, right? Why can't I, as a consumer, because if Steam shut down tomorrow, I would lose hundreds of Steam games.
oh man.
If Epic shut down tomorrow, I would lose hundreds of games that I have on Epic. You know? Why can I not pay for my own service to store my games on? And I license it from the developers themselves.
Let me port my shit out.
Yes. I should be able to set up my own server at my house, and I should be able to contact Activision and say, hey, how much for a license for the new COD game? Oh, $20 for the license and it's forever? Okay, bet. And I send them $20. They send me all the installation files that I need, and I can install it at any time, and I don't have to be connected to their servers.
Because it says I own that.
Exactly.
But what happens if they take it off? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
What happens if they
Well, I
lose the
own it.
license or sell it to another company?
Yeah, exactly. Or they get bought out. Like
Yeah.
Microsoft could shut Call of Duty down forever. We don't know. I'm not saying that they're
Well,
going
I mean,
to, but
yeah, we don't.
yeah,
They could.
I mean,
It's their property. They can do whatever the fuck they want to with
they
it.
just have the
Exactly.
power.
They
to
might
do
shut it down on
yeah.
other consoles.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's getting into this weird gray area, and like I said, I mean, I like the idea of paying a smaller fee, not paying $60 or $70 up front, but also Corey, why do you think, honestly, what game in the past 10 years, and I know the game that you're going to say, but what game within the past 10 to 15 years would you say is worth the $70 price tag that's put on it?
10 to 15 years?
Yes,
Baldur's Gate, man.
exactly.
Baldur's Gate.
I'd
That's
say
just
if
in the
you're
last
going back,
year.
if you're going back like
Yeah.
15 years, maybe Fallout 4.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a stretch.
Yeah. So, what is this fascination? They're spending almost double a film's budget on a game. They're spending $500 million on some of these games.
Mm.
Yeah. It's like, why are we
Make better
spending?
games then. What the fuck? I mean,
Exactly. Exactly.
X Defiant was on Ubisoft.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
They got their client blows.
Yeah, it does.
I've got games on there. I don't even have that shit installed. It sucks that much. Like,
Yeah. So the budget for Baldur's Gate 3 was created with a budget of over $100 million. Yeah, Baldur's Great. $100 million. All right. Starfield. Starfield had a budget of over $200 million with 500 developers working on it.
yeah, that was big for like a week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they said here that at nearly $415 million, Star Citizen's development budget.
Oh, get that.
Yeah, right. Like
That game's not coming out.
it's like, dude, we're spending like way more money on, and that's the thing about these indie games. People are like, how can a team of two people develop an indie game that makes millions and millions and millions of dollars? And it's like, well, they're innovating and they're passionate about what they're doing. They're not churning
On a
things.
cash grab.
Exactly. It's not a factory.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They're passionate.
Yes. So all I'm saying is if gaming is going to go this route to where it's going to be a subscription based service and they're going to be, trying to hook you, trying to get you interested and involved in it, then they need to spend the time, they need to spend the money correctly to develop games that are good, that people actually want to play. Like, we learn from the failures that the streaming services went through.
Yeah.
So,
Well, dude, that Pokemon ripoff game, I know we're going
Yes.
to talk about that, but their budget was like $6 million.
yes, exactly.
And look how big it is.
Yes.
You don't have to spend $200 million.
No,
Mm-mm.
not at all. Especially whenever you have engine suites like Unreal, to where you can any Tom, Dick, and Harry can download Unreal and spend $5,000 to getting asset packs, make small changes to it. And as long as the concept and the idea and the gameplay is good and fun, people will play it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at what The Day Before did, just off of word of mouth alone. The trailer and word of mouth, they made millions of dollars off of a game that was just cobbled together. Ridiculous. So yeah, I don't like the way that, like, here's the thing with Ubisoft, like, it's so touch and go with them. They'll release something that is absolutely amazing and incredible, and then they'll just release just piles of shit one after another, and then they'll release something else.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, and
they
then
don't care.
no, then you got X Defiant. Where the
They're just all about making that money.
I think
Yeah.
Far Cry
Get
is their
that sudden
best
burst of
release,
cash.
right?
That first initial peak of cash is what they want. And then,
maybe
I'm sure Prince of Persia's done good over time, but
Far Cry, maybe Assassin's Creed.
oh
They
yeah,
did Assassin's Creed, so
I like Far.
yeah. So, but we'll see. Ubisoft needs to get their shit together first before they.
Mm-hmm.
You know what
18
I'm-
bucks?
Yeah, right. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
I can pay $7 for Game Pass and play thousands of games. You know, like what are we doing here?